Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, we have Sean O'Hara, president at Pacer ETFs Distributors, to take a look at some long-term opportunities and the ETFs that get you exposure to them. Sean, it's great to see you as always. Welcome back to Trade Talks.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me on, Jill.
You got it. And let's talk about the overall market to kick this off. We are at an inflection point. We've seen a valuation reset. What are your thoughts here?
Well, I think you hit it perfectly. I think we're at this pivot point where we could go one way or the other. I think, we could have already put a bottom in, and, it could be a good time to start buying some of these risk-based assets and longer duration stocks, or we could continue to struggle with inflation and interest rates, and the forward earnings expectations could change, in which case we probably would need another leg down in terms of the contraction of an overall PE ratio. So I guess the data will tell us in the next 30 to 90 days where we actually are.
Well, let's talk about the first sector one here. Online gaming and gambling, it seems to be, if you think about it through a longer term lens, not going anywhere. I mean, people need to entertain themselves, don't they?
Yeah, we built the product. We probably were a little late because there's a couple of other products out there. But when you consider the amount of money that's being spent and invested in online gaming, it's become a phenomenon, and the growth is remarkable. And the online gambling piece of that is also a giant opportunity, as all of the bigger casinos sort of vie for their position there against some of the early disruptors. And so in this particular case, odds is the ticker, so you really got a pretty good ticker there. But when you start to think about where those names are, they're mostly 50% off their highs. And so if you're a long-term investor who might have missed out on some of these things to begin with, you have an opportunity now to put a position in that over the long haul, you'll be buying into a business segment or a thematic play that should grow faster overall than the economy or the market in general.
And you think robotics is another area that has good long-term opportunity?
100%. Look, labor costs are always a challenge for businesses. The supply chain has been a big problem for the overall economy, and so one way to solve the labor cost issue is to use more and more robotics. I think that the amount of money that American corporations have invested in robotics technology in the first half of this year has gone up by over 40%, and so I think that just tells you what the businesses are thinking of. And then when you think about the supply chain piece of it, the bottlenecks are being caused by a whole bunch of different things. Some of it's at the port, and some of it's because of COVID issues. But in order for us really to automate the processes needed to deliver the goods at the speed that we want them, then you need to invest pretty heavily in robotics technology. And so that ticker, and then the second piece of that, by the way, which is also a pretty fascinating part of the supply chain piece of it, is 3D printing. So BULD, build, is a robotics and 3D printing ETF, and the 3D printing piece of it is also kind of critical to the that on-demand delivery, if you will, or the faster uptake of goods to the eventual consumer.
Right, and of course, the benefit of having it within an ETF wrapper is the diversification of the stocks. And if you're not sure which companies fit within that profile, it's done for you.
Yeah, and we use a company, Blue Star, as the index provider for us here, and they're sort of cutting edge and ahead of everybody else, we think, on a lot of the things that they're doing. And so you're getting a diversified basket in both of these cases that are really targeted specifically to those two key areas we talked about, whether it's the robotics and 3D printing piece of it, or online gambling and online gaming.
All right, Sean, appreciate the insight as always. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq.